All right. Hello, globally connected family. We are very excited to have you all join us on our third episode. So, today we're going to be talking about a quite important topic, especially as you grow in your business and in your work life and in your endeavors. It's very important to stay humble and be aware of the power that comes with it and how to manage it. So, more specifically, we'll talk about a syndrome, quote unquote, called Hubris Syndrome and how this can impact people in the workplace or as business owners, and some strategies that you can take to make sure that you stay self aware and continuously on a path of growth rather than feeling like, okay, I've reached a place where I know everything and I call all the shots, because that can ultimately lead to one's downfall. And actually, that humility and humbleness and ability to listen to others and do things for others is what got someone to their position of success or power in the first place. So, very important to stay aware of these things. So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and start by defining the concept for you all. And from there, we'll dive in. Hubris syndrome is described as a psychological state that occurs when someone in a position of power develops an inflated sense of self and their abilities. So it's characterized by excessive self confidence, a lack of empathy, and a disregard for others. So, we've seen some examples over just our lifetimes of businesses that maybe were doing really, really amazing. And then over time, maybe they just didn't adapt or see that there's other things coming in the market, or maybe they took a closed eye on something because the confidence hit or the success hit, and it ultimately can lead to downfall. So an example I can think of is, like, for example, Blockbuster. Like, I used to love Blockbuster, and Jerome, I'm sure you grew up in the time too with Blockbuster, and we'd all go get our movies, and Blockbuster was on top, you know? But Blockbuster really believed in that the dominance over the market was unshakable. You know, when Netflix started to come out, Blockbuster didn't really see Netflix as a threat. Like, they were pretty sure in their success that they would still be able to dominate. And now, if you look today, like, that ultimately led to the downfall, and Netflix has completely taken over. Same with
Question. But do you really think that's the reason why Netflix took over, or it was just because Blockbuster actually wasn't satisfying the needs of the market, and it was just ran its course with its business model because of lack of
yeah,
innovation?
yeah, absolutely. Like, exactly. That's exactly right. Like, I think they did end up to a point where you fail to meet the needs of your market. And that can definitely happen when you get in a perspective where maybe you're not looking out into how you can improve and stay ahead, stay improving, gathering feedback, listening to your market to understand what they need to then provide a solution for them. Jerome, I'm curious to know, have you seen this concept of hubris syndrome, or just overall, like, someone maybe having excessive confidence or pride in their ability?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen examples of it in business, but I'm more so want to switch gears. I actually see a lot in basketball, in sports, I should say, but most are in basketball. Like for example, I look at the example of the Lakers in 2021 from like 2023, the Shaq and Kobe dynamic, the late great Kobe Bryant. You had a young rookie coming in who wanted to kind of like be like Michael Jordan, or at least pursue the same route to greatness that he did. And then you had a Shaq who at the time was one of the most dominant big men in the league. It just felt like he could do anything and be the best player in the league. So once Shaq got traded to the Lakers, you had this young, hungry superstar in the making who wanted to be a superstar and again be the greatest player coming off the bench, but he felt like it was his time after that first championship that they won. So he wanted to actually take over, and that's when he saw his potential in the first finals run. He felt like he was the man or coming to his own. So he was more disciplined in his preparation and routine to get to where he wanted to be. Yet he felt like Shaq wasn't doing the same thing or whatever the case may be. So you can kind of say in that instance, I wouldn't say Kobe Bryant wasn't as humble, but maybe that ego and that drive to be so successful and pursue the route of greatness, such as Michael Jordan, got into the way and rubbed the feathers of Shaq the wrong way, and that caused friction between the two. And because of that, maybe that lack of humbleness or pursuit of wanting to be so great got into the way and caused them to break up that team. So instead of winning three championships, they could have probably stayed together instead of Shaq being traded from the team. And who knows what could have happened with that. But to me, I think it happens a lot of times in sports. That's just a prime example of one that I think relates to Hubris syndrome. Let me know what your thoughts on that.
Oh, that's a really good example, Jerome. Like, especially when you put it in sports, in entertainment industries too. Like, somebody can just get so high up, and then it gets to a point where maybe they take a more stagnant approach than when they were getting to that spot. Like when they
Yeah.
were building up to get there and had all that drive and that motive, and would look up to other people to gain some knowledge and wisdom from them, and like actually take in other people's feedback, which actually leads like to the next point, which is how can we as people recognize hubris in ourselves, and what can we do about it? So what kind of questions can we ask ourselves to recognize this, because it's a human phenomenon. Anybody can experience this and will experience this. So how can we make sure that we stay self-aware and ask ourselves questions to make sure that we don't go down this rabbit hole?
That's a good point. Well, I would actually refer it back to the book, The 48 Laws of Power. So in that
Mhm,
book, there's a concept that says the student never outshines the teacher or the master. So that's actually a
mhm,
good analogy to apply to your life in business or sports or whatever the scenario may be. You can never outshine the master as the student in the world. And that actually relates back to humbleness because if you
mhm,
think about it, it's like, it's not even about being better than them or greater than them. It's just about having that humility to know that how can I, not saying you can't, but how can I be greater than the person who gave me the tutelage that I needed to be effective in whatever it is that they taught. So I think that's a good example. And then also, it just always going back to example, the main reason, well, what I talked about in our last episode, what's the reason behind why you're starting to do what you do, why you're on this pursuit that you're on?
mhm.
Is it for notoriety? Is it to gain status, popularity, etc.? The case may be. So I just think you always got to go back to the root cause and the foundation of whatever it is that you may be, and I think that's how you could get hubris syndrome. What do you think, though? And how? Why do you think people get hubris syndrome? Actually, that's a good question,
Mhm.
and I think we should discuss that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, to your point, I think like humility is key here. Like you have to stay humble, and you have to understand that like I don't have all the answers. Because I think it can happen when hubris syndrome and this elevated sense of self can happen when someone starts to think that they have all the answers. And like you said, to not outshine the master, it's very important to be able to sit and listen. I think that's something that we could definitely do to prevent hubris syndrome, is because everyone's opinion has something in it. Like it may not be something that you need to do. Maybe you can listen to an opinion and you think, okay, this isn't actually the track of path that I need to take. But you shouldn't create an environment where people are afraid to speak out and say like, hey, I think there's something we should change about this process, or
Yeah,
hey, I think this isn't working out. Because if everyone fears you and just becomes a yes man to keep you happy, because it's not going to help others grow too. So I think going back to our previous episode and focusing on your impact and your purpose, what purpose and impact do you want to have on people that you collaborate with? What are some ways that you think like someone can prevent this with other people? Like how can they encourage an environment that fosters like everyone collaborating together or speaking their mind?
start off by identifying what is the culture, what
Mhm.
the whatever it is that you have established or are trying to establish based on the setting, whether that's a business, whether that's sports, whether that's family, whether that's friends, etc. You have to identify the culture and start from there. And also try to identify what is everybody like, how
Mhm.
can you reach everybody as well to be able to create alignment and symmetry within, again, whatever the scenario may be. Starting from the culture and trying to identify that and getting to know people, because we are mind readers. So, yeah, how
Yeah.
about you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it is going to come from learning about others and staying curious. So, for example, if you are in a position where you're like in the top leadership of a company, or if you're leading something, like do something to where you're learning to, like go and take courses and learn from someone who's an expert at a subject that you are not, and go and learn and implement these practices in your work. So, encourage feedback. So, like exactly what you said
Good
with
one.
culture, you want to build a culture where there is like open communication,
Yeah.
and you make people feel like their opinions are valued because you really believe that their opinions are valued. If you are working with people and you're choosing these people to work with you on a team, you really should value their opinion and like who they are and their backgrounds. I think that can help reduce hubris syndrome by actually having a team of people that are not afraid to challenge you, because if you don't want anyone to challenge you, then that's no good.
Why do you think people want to be heard? Because I feel like that's probably the biggest reason of Hubris syndrome, just learning more about the concept.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I mean, naturally as humans, we all kind of want to be heard, right? I mean, even like little kids, like when they have needs or wants, like they'll cry till you hear them to go. So, to be honest, I don't know exactly why we all want to be heard, but I do think it's important for us all to respect each other's um kind of privilege to be heard. Like it's important for us to be able to make other people feel heard and not shut them out like no, your opinion doesn't matter. So overall, in my opinion, as a leader, you really should care about how you make other people feel, whether that's an employee, whether that's a client, whether that's a partner that you work with, and like actually be able to hear what they have to say and the feedback,
Hmm.
and be able to challenge your own ideas because they're not always perfect or right.
Yeah. I don't think we thought about this, but I think emotions is a big thing of Hubris syndrome, and not considering other people's emotions and how they may feel. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
I think emotions is it's an interesting personality within ourselves that we could be selfish about,
Mhm.
because we are only in our bodies. So we not understanding what the other person may feel or think, etc. I think it take emotional intelligence, at least from the aspect of emotions, to be able to
Mhm.
know that you can give out hubris syndrome. So yeah, that's
Exactly.
the question I
Yeah,
have.
and self-reflection. And then when it comes to clients too, I think this is extremely key because you really want to listen to the feedback of your clients. Like this is honestly golden material. Like we've received feedback like by doing surveys for our clients and like gotten their perspective back on what they want to see in international business, what innovations they want to see. And this is like gold. Like this is like golden data there because you get to actually hear from your customer who you as an individual should really respect their experience in the field, and them choosing you to work with you and them having prior experience and them having clients of their own and everything. So their perspective is truly golden material to learn from. What's one thing that you can do today to make sure that hubris isn't holding you or your business back?
That's a good question, actually, and good. That's something good to think about. So audience obviously answer that question, but I want us both to answer that question as well. What can
Yeah.
we do? So I want you to start, and then also I want to play devil's advocate and also ask a follow up to that. But yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, okay, so something that I think that I could do to avoid hubris in our business is I think I want to hear more feedback, especially like from our clients. Like I
Mm,
want to hear more from our clients on like, okay, what are you seeing in the market? Like what are the market needs that you're seeing from your own research too? And actually invite collaboration with our clients to where we're exchanging ideas with them, because as consultants oftentimes like we're the ones that are there to help solve our clients' problems. And of course, this takes a lot of discovery and learning about our client's business and about the unmet need and the problem that they have. But I think what I want to do is take it a step further, and even after continuously ask, like, even apart from what we are consulting them on, what are some things that they're learning or information that they're gathering in their market, and what feedback they have for us and such.
That's good. And I'll follow up by saying I'm gonna take it back to sports. I'm a huge
Uh-huh.
sports guy, but I want to be my client's player and let them be the coach. So for
Mm-hmm.
evaluation, the goal is to win a championship, right? So that's in sports. So in business, the goal in this case is to help you navigate the waters of international business and effectively into markets wherever you like. So you be the coach and tell me what you want, draw up the plays, and I'll be the player and perform first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter efficiently as I can to help us win the game and win the championships of entering new markets. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the best player that I can be for the coach.
Yeah, I love that, because as consultants, typically we come in kind of as a coach, we come in to be like, okay, we'll take this route, let's do this. But, creating a more collaborative approach where also our client is actually the coach and we are the player too is going to be really nice.
And then the last thing, and I'll start with this: how do you approach somebody with Hubris syndrome and have a conversation with them? So for me, I would say if I recognize going forward, if I recognize somebody with hubris syndrome, I would just start off the conversation with I pull them to the side, obviously first, because me personally, I just think that's a conversation, a topic that should be had around a lot of people. That's a
Yeah,
private one. It's
I
a time and
agree.
place for everything. And I'll
Yeah.
start with, hey, how are you doing? Because that right there is open up the floodgates to somebody to being vulnerable and open to allow you into their space.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is that they have hubris syndrome of, it's allowing you that space to start the gateway of breaking that. So I just start by asking them that questions, how is life currently, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe crack a joke, get them to laugh, and just loosen up. And then that's when I'll say, hey, do you notice such and such and such? Your emotions are getting the best of you, and it's leading to like just disalignment in our business and us not achieving our goals. So that is an
Mm-hmm.
example where they're like, oh, hey, I didn't realize that, but thank you for calling that out. And they may respond back, what are some solutions or whatever the case may be that you would suggest to kind of like negate that or improve that so that we can improve as a business and realign the culture to get it back to where it's supposed to be. So those are just some common tactics that I think can be pursue when you see somebody with a hubris syndrome and how to approach that. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
off
I
my.
like that a lot. I like that, especially with asking them how they are too, and like
Mhm.
kind of being able to decipher like what's going on and what is kind of leading to this. How can you actually get someone like this to notice? And I think ultimately one of the things that can help is to help them see the longer vision and where they came from, right? Because
Mhm.
they probably came from a place where they were not like that and they were more collaborative and they were working with others and listening to others and creating an environment that fosters collaboration, but something
Mhm.
along the way just got to where the success got to their head and they lost track of that. So maybe I think an approach I would take would be to backtrack on the story of like, hey, this is how things started, and like,
Yeah.
this is where we're at now. I just want you to take a step back and see, because I don't want you to lose sight of the very thing that led to the success in the first place.
Mm. Okay, that's good. Before we close, what's the one thing you want our viewers to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, I would say the one thing would be just to stay self-aware and reflective. Stay humble and stay self-aware. And I think, the best way to go about these things is to ask yourself like about things outside of yourself. Like
Hmm.
how are my teammates doing? How are they doing? Like, how's their mental health? Like, what's going on with my team? What's going on with the industry? Like, so things outside of me. Because if you're always thinking about me and my success and this and this and that, you could get in this hubris syndrome because you're not thinking outside of you and like how things are going there. So just stay humble, stay aware, both self-aware and externally aware.
That's a
How
good
about
one.
you?
Be fine with not being in charge.
Yeah.
Be the player that I mentioned earlier, because
Yeah.
that's actually a saying that I took very liking to. I came across it last year. The best player on the team is not always the leader.
Mhm. Facts.
So
Yeah.
your best player could be the person who doesn't talk as much. You know, your
Mhm.
best player could be the person who just actually goes out and perform.
Mhm.
You need those on your team, whatever the case may be. So be fine with being a player and not always being the one that's outspoken. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
that's the
So
takeaway.
that reminds me too. Like I was reading an article and it was talking about this and it had mentioned like, you know, are you eating lunch with the same people every day? And I was like, oh yeah. Because think about it. If you're in an environment and you're just only talking to the same two people every day and you don't really care about the other people in the lunchroom to go and chat with them and get to know about what's going on with them, but you're just stuck in this bubble that you've created for yourself, that
Yeah,
can lead to hubris syndrome in a way. But it's like, talk to the person who maybe doesn't talk so much, or learn from somebody else outside of the two people that you work with on a day-to-day basis. Like expand your horizons kind of.
that's good. I like that one. I'm gonna have to take that. All right. Anything else before we close on this another great episode?
Yeah, no, I think that's it, guys. Stay humble, stay great, and just keep learning and growing, and we're all in this life thing together. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, we thank you all for tuning in to another episode of our GCG YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, follow us on here. Also, you can check out our website, and just keep going with us on this journey. You know, it's gonna keep getting better and better. So that's it for us for today. Thank you for being a part of another great episode.
Yep. Thank you all. Take care, everybody.